Welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast, where it's all about fixing your marriage without your husband's conscious effort so that you feel desired and taken care of and special, even if your relationship feels completely hopeless. I'm Laura Doyle, and today I'm sharing 7 resources for fixing your marriage. My guest, Christina's marriage was filled with explosive rage, cold wars, fights about everything, parenting, money, time, housework, feeling alone and unloved. They were on the brink of divorce, but she learned a secret that seemed too good to be true. And today her marriage is filled with slow dances, companionable silence, and peace. She feels cherished beyond what she ever could have imagined, and she's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. The Worst Relationship Advice of the Week award goes to a saying on a t-shirt that's meant to be funny, but hit too close to home for one student and for me too. All of that is coming up. But first, I'm going to talk about 7 resources for fixing your marriage. When your marriage is falling apart, it can be pretty hard to know exactly what to do next, except for going to marriage counseling, which everyone knows is what you're supposed to do if your marriage is falling apart. Only that didn't work for my husband, John, and me. And it didn't work for thousands of students on the Laura Doyle campus either. So what else can you do to fix your marriage if it's gotten dull and you want it to be shiny again? Or if it's got serious problems that you feel overwhelmed about? Well, here are 7 resources we offer for fixing your marriage and finding a sense of hope. Resource number 1, the blog on lauradoyle.org. Let's say you're having a very specific challenge in your marriage and you want to read about ways to use your influence and your power to create a big change in your marriage. Or let's say there's a crisis and you want to hear about ways to respond that will help preserve your marriage. You can just go to lauradoyle.org, click on blog, and there's a search feature that lets you look for any topic, like how to attract your husband's attention or affection, and what to do if you're married to a narcissist. All the relevant blogs will come up out of the hundreds that are there on the website. The blogs are entirely free. Resource number 2, the Empowered Wife podcast. Well, you're already listening to this podcast right now, so you already know about this resource, but did you know it's available as both an audio on iTunes, Spotify, and the lauradoyle.org website, and lots of other places as a video on YouTube too? The podcast is also entirely free. Resource number 3 is books. Did you know I've written 5 books to provide inspiration and step-by-step instructions for having your best relationship? My newest book is called The Empowered Wife, and you can get it via audio or in paperback form. And it is a great way to get all 6 intimacy skills into your hands so you can gain the understanding of how to best fix your marriage. And if you only read or listen to one of my books, that's the one I recommend. There are 4 others, and they all provide hope and insights for creating lasting, thriving relationships and becoming your best self. And the books are available at bookstores or on Amazon or at the library for free. Resource number 4 is the Adored Wife Challenge. Having the 6 intimacy skills is fantastic. Those are the skills that I learned from women who had happy marriages, and when I used them, they worked, but I couldn't keep doing them by myself. I just couldn't do it. My old habits would come back and my old way of thinking until I got a community of women to practice the intimacy skills with me. And that's when the magic happened. And I got the playful, passionate relationship I'd always wanted. And I've been able to keep it for over 20 years now. It's something I'd love for every wife to experience. So we offer the free Adored Wife Challenge twice a year, where you get to get live training on specific skills, and you get to experiment with one skill a day for 5 days. The challenges are also magical. Women with no hope find hope and become empowered. We announce the challenges via email when we have them, and the next one will be in January of 2023. The Adored Wife Challenge is entirely free. Resource number 5, the Laura Doyle community of women who are committed to making their marriages great. These are the most accountable, courageous, committed, and funny women on the planet. There's nothing quite like being a part of that community because instead of telling you to just get divorced or that you deserve better or bashing men in general, they're all standing for each other to make their marriages last and make them thrive. We gather on a very private platform online to share and listen and support each other and on coaching calls. It's inspiring and uplifting to be a part of that community in the programs on our campus. Resource number 6 is Certified Laura Doyle Relationship Coaches. Having the 6 intimacy skills is a terrific start. It's crucial for improving your marriage, but sometimes they can be a little tricky to apply by yourself. And that's where a coach comes in to help you see the habits that are putting your marriage at risk or making it feel like a never-ending chore instead of your soft place to land. Every coach on our campus is a woman who struggled in her marriage and used the 6 intimacy skills to transform it. They are passionate about supporting women who are hurting in their marriages. Some people say having a coach is like having your own fairy godmother. Resource number 7 is relationship coach training. You've heard that expression that the best way to learn something is to teach it, right? Like going to yoga class and then becoming a yoga instructor. It's a whole other level. But in the case of relationship coach training, you're becoming an expert on the 6 intimacy skills by applying them in your own marriage, along with the connection framework. And some women enroll in coach training for the sole purpose of getting the highest level of support in fixing their marriages because it's that important to them to have a strong marriage, a strong family. Since you're the expert on your own life, only you know how much support is best for you, for your marriage, for your family. My commitment to you is that when you come to our campus looking for support, we will be here ready to show you how to regain your power. If you'd like to be my guest on the Empowered Wife podcast and share about how you fixed a struggling relationship using the 6 intimacy skills, I would love to interview you. Just go to lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest to let me know that you are willing to make a big contribution to ending world divorce by telling your relationship story. I look forward to meeting you. That's lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest. My guest Christina's marriage was filled with explosive rage, cold wars, fights about everything, parenting, money, time, housework, feeling alone, and unloved. They were both exhausted and on the brink of divorce. But Christina learned a secret that seemed too good to be true. And today, her marriage is filled with slow dances, with companionable silence, and with peace. She feels cherished beyond what she ever could have imagined, and she's going to tell us how she did it, so you can do it too. Christina, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. Thank you so much for coming on to share your story.
Oh, it's my pleasure and honor, Laura.
Great. Well, I want to hear from the beginning what things were going on in the bad old days. What was happening?
Okay, so we had the dating days and the romantic whirlwind that was. He was in the Marines and he just swept me right off my feet. And then it seemed to change the day we got married. We went to the courthouse, and that day he actually went back to work after we got married. And so we, just from that moment on, it just felt like, this is what marriage is. This is what I know from my childhood. And this like dark cloud of gloom just was over us. And I had no idea how to get out of it, how to be a wife. And I blamed him for it. And and his time in the Marines. I was like, oh, because he was in the Marines, he's just really angry all the time. And so everything was a fight. We fought about money a lot, just everything. I was always trying to fix him, get him to go to counseling. And so it was just really bleak. And we just kind of limped along. I was like, I guess this is just what marriage is. And we, yeah, it was just so lonely. And I felt unloved and pretty depressed, really. Just like, okay, I'm going to just resign myself to this. And then we came to the worst old days. And the worst old days, I moved out of the bedroom. And this is about 2 years ago. I moved out of the bedroom. And I loved having my own room. And I felt just better. And I actually felt like I started to feel like we were the same side of a magnet, and we were like repelling each other. And I really kind of just felt repelled by him, and I think he felt repelled by me. And so we continued on like that for a while, and it was just miserable. Yeah, we moved across the country, and just I didn't have any support, and I felt even lonely that way, and that made our marriage even worse. And by this time we had 2 boys, and it was parenting was the worst, really. And just everything, the bedtime was a struggle. I just remember like we chased it was just so bad. I would always interrupt what he was doing with the kids, and he would get mad, and I didn't understand, and it was really hard.
It sounds hard and painful and lonely. What did you do to try to fix it? Or did you just figure this is just how it is?
I tried everything, Laura. Actually, just yesterday, he found a notebook, and he opened the notebook, and he's like, oh, look, this is the notes from our meeting. Remember when you used to make me come to a meeting with you with 3 things on the agenda list?
Oh.
And I said, oh my gosh, I am so sorry for being so disrespectful that I made you do that. Marriage books, I would say, I'm reading this, now you're reading this. Counselors, retreats, anything made him, be like, you need to go on medication. I pointed the finger at him. I never thought that I could do anything about it. I always waited for him to do something about it.
Yeah. So medication, did you have him diagnosed with some kind of a something? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he had a diagnosis of PTSD, anxiety, all that. And although there was like a comfort kind of being like, look, see, there really is something wrong with him. There was also a feeling of being a victim, like, well, great, now he's got that, now we're really doomed.
Yeah, it's kind of even more depressing news. And you were already depressed, it sounds like.
Yeah, very much so.
So you're sleeping separately, and did you ever think, well, maybe we'd be better off to just get divorced?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would, being in that room on my own, I just felt a freedom. And I thought I could get my own apartment. And I could have everything in the places that I wanted it to be in, and I could feel happy then maybe. And then I would start to think about my sons being picked up on a Friday night or something, and just thinking about the pain that they would go through. And so then I would just be like, okay, nope, I can't do that pain. But I also can't do this pain. So it just felt like a very stuck place to be in.
Yeah. So was there a moment when you just thought, okay, can't live like this now anymore?
When he started telling people, we went to the pastor's office, and the pastor was like, wow, yeah, sounds like you guys are living in a torture chamber in your house. And I was like, yeah, that's it. Or my husband's like, yeah, that's it. And then he prayed over us, and I didn't know what was going to happen next, but that in that office was the first time that Jeremy really, or my husband, admitted that he was really unhappy. And then he started telling his family members.
Oh.
And when he started telling his family members, there was something inside of me that was like, don't start telling people. Don't start telling people about this situation, because I wanted everyone to think that I was perfect. And if people started to know, it was one thing that we were in this torture chamber, but for people to know, there was something like a fire that lit under me. Like I was like, no, somebody else is gonna. And then one of the family members actually said, "It might be better to just let this go. Might be better to just walk away. Might be better for the kids if you just walked away." And when he told me that somebody told him that, I thought, oh, it's on now.
Oh, wow. Well, this kind of lit a fire under you. It sounds like it was a level of threat to your status, which I can relate to. Yeah, it was kind of embarrassing to have people know it wasn't going so good at home. Yeah, it is embarrassing. So then what happened?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It felt embarrassing. So then one day he came home, and he came home from a Bible study, and he came home and he said, I want to tell you something. And he called me into his room, and he held my hands, and he looked in my eyes, and he said, we're not alone. And he said, somebody else is going through this too in their marriage, and somebody can help us. And I was like, okay. And so we scheduled the call with this woman, and she said, read this book and listen to this podcast. And it was yours, Laura. It was
this very podcast that
you're
a guest. Wow. There's this very podcast that you're now a guest on. Wow. So your husband introduced you to this, or he heard about it somehow. And you were open. You're like, okay, I'll check it out. Huh. So you did read the book and you did listen to the podcast, it sounds like.
I did. Yeah. I listened to the first podcast, which the title was Should You Fake It? And it was about, should you fake respecting your husband if you don't respect him? And I said, that I want to know the answer.
Yeah.
Because I do not respect my husband. It's really embarrassing to admit that, but here we are.
Yeah. I love it. So I faked you out, and then you're about faking it. Yeah. And so, what did you think when you first heard the podcast then? What was going through your mind?
This is so crazy, and I'm so desperate, and it just might work.
Desperation is a good teacher in a way, right? Desperation and pain. So you were willing, you were open because you were so desperate. I can relate to that too. So what did you, and then, so then you got the book
Hmm.
and, and go ahead.
Yeah. I got the book, and the first thing I did was self-care, really deep self-care, soul care, um, and just really realizing how depleted I was and how my husband wanted to make me happy. That's really his deepest desire, is to make me happy. And yet I was so depleted that he could never make me happy.
Wow.
And so I thought, I have to find how to make myself happy. And I started to really deepen my faith. I started to do little things like turn my face up to the sun, wear gold earrings because I wanted to, write poetry, just little things that just filled me up so that he could walk in and he could kind of top off my happiness. But he didn't have to pick me up off the floor anymore.
Wow.
And then the other thing with that self-care, I realized is I need to talk to ladies. That's what I want to do. I want to connect with women because I have 10,000 words. I want to get those out. And I've been saying my 10,000 words to my husband, and he's like, I'm not even here. And then I couldn't listen to his 2,000 words.
Yeah. Because you didn't feel heard, right? You weren't good. It wasn't enough. One mere mortal man, no matter how great, can't be enough, right? Wow. So you started hanging out with some girlfriends or sisters or something, huh?
I did. I did. I really sought ways to create these circles of sisters that I felt connected to. Um, and that just filled me up. Like I kind of thought about each day, okay, who can I connect with and share my 10,000 words with them, listen to their, 10,000 words, or maybe I call three of them and I get like 3,000 from each or whatever it is. But I need that.
Yeah.
And then, right? And then he'd come home, and then I could just put on some duct tape and be all dignified and just listen to what he said.
How did he respond when he came home and you were in sparkly gold earrings and you were happy and you were dignified?
Oh, he just, there were some times that he came home. One time he came home and we were in the kitchen and he just looked at me and he said, "What's going on?" He said, "Don't get me wrong. I don't want to go back to how it was, but you're just so, like, it's so different and I really like it. What's happening?"
So he didn't know anything about what you were, well, he kind of did because he's the one that introduced you to something about the skills, right?
Well, actually, so this woman, she gave specific manly information to him and specific womanly information to me.
Wow.
So he didn't know. He had no idea.
Wow. So
And I actually think,
go ahead. You actually think?
that for me, part of the power of the skills is that I don't tell him about them. I can't make him read the book.
You can't. You tried that already with other books, right? This book is just for you. He doesn't need to read it, huh? Wow. Okay, so you are self-caring like crazy, getting your social self-care, and he's noticing a difference. And that was kind of a nice acknowledgement he gave you, wasn't it? That must have made you feel great. He's like, Christina, you've changed. Oh,
See like the shock on his face when I do something like just kind of so different. Like that moment in the kitchen, and like when I just was just being that light, like my favorite self, and just the way that he would look at me like, who are you? Like I just love that surprise.
Yeah, beautiful. So you had some evidence that this was working, this approach.
Yeah.
What else? Were there other moments when you thought, oh, this is really working?
Yeah. So pretty early on in the skills, I would say 2 weeks in, we were sitting on a bench together and I was just listening. And then he said, so I've been thinking about getting a truck. And this has been like 17 years of marriage. He always wants a truck. I don't want a truck. It's been such a bone of contention. And I was quiet. And then I said, oh, whatever you think, I trust you. And I turned my head to the side because I had this huge smile and I was like, he's going to know like something's going on. And I just turned my head to the side. I kind of let my like strange feeling pass. And then I turned my head back and just sat there for a little bit. He's like, you trust me? I was like, yeah, I do. All this time, even in that moment, I didn't trust my husband. Oh, kind of breaks my heart to think about that. I do trust him now. And that moment, it really shifted things for us. Later that day in the kitchen, we hadn't really had any physical contact for like 8 months, maybe. I was living in another bedroom. And he looks at me and he says, I think I want to kiss you right now. And I said, I think I want you to kiss me too. And then we kissed each other.
So it is okay to fake it. That respect. You're living proof. Wow. And it is the best aphrodisiac on the planet for men, or at least you got a kiss out of it.
Yeah.
Did this, so what about now? Are you still sleeping in separate bedrooms?
No, we're definitely not. And I have to say the respect is it's for me and for him. I did a deep apology for all those years and I cleaned up my side of the street. And I think that really shifted a lot of things between us. For about 2 weeks, I just poured out everything into a letter. And I gave it to him one day in an envelope before he went to work. And he never said anything about anything in the letter. But that day he texted me and said, I want to take you to the coast this weekend. And he does those things now. He romances me. And we're not sleeping in separate bedrooms.
No. Wow. What now? Did you ever feel, I don't know, like put out that you had to do all this apologizing and like he wasn't doing it? Yeah. Okay. So how did you get past that?
Oh, well, I happen to like the way that I feel when I apologize. There's this, when I feel that, like, I call it like the nose wrinkle grown feeling. And yet it's also when my heart feels fleshy and vulnerable and not hard-hearted. And I don't want to go back to feeling hard-hearted.
Mm-hmm. This feels nicer. So I hear you saying you're more vulnerable now.
I am. I am. Yeah, that's it. That's another thing, is receiving graciously from him. One day he picked up my phone off the ground after I dropped it. I said, "Oh, thank you." And he said, "What? You said thank you? Like a month ago, you would have literally bit my head off." I said, "I know, I'm sorry."
Wow. So things are a lot different at your house. Yeah. So what is your relationship like now? How would you describe it?
Hmm. I asked him what he thought, how he would describe it too, and he said, good. He said, I would love. I was like, fair enough, fair enough. Okay. And he goes, how many adjectives would you like?
Towards your 10,000 words, right? Yeah. Or just out of his 3,000 words he gets a day. Yeah.
I said, I would love 4 adjectives. And he said, good, healthy, faithful, and loving.
Oh. So
And
take that,
I
relative
think
who
those words
suggested.
absolutely describe it.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
For bringing that back.
Yeah, yeah. Take that, relative who suggested you should get divorced. You got this.
Oh, yeah. And I think that going to that, there are moments when I'm like, I could have missed this. And now he gives me hugs and he kisses the back of my neck. Or we walk and he touches the small of my back. And sometimes we have a slight cold breeze. No more cold wars, just a cold breeze. And then I go, okay, what do I need to apologize for? And then if there's nothing, then I can just let it go and go do a creek walk or whatever makes me fill up. And then it passes. And our marriage is, I've heard like a soft place to land. And it is that. It's a place of healing. It's a place of redemption. It's a place where I want to be in. I want to be married to my husband, not just for my children, for me. I want to be married to my husband. And I respect him and I trust him. I love him. And he's always been there for me, waiting for me.
Beautiful, Christina. Very moving. Is this the same man that had the PTSD and the anxiety?
He's a different man, but he didn't do anything. You know, he used to wrap himself up in this blue plush blanket, and I used to hate it. And I just why does he? And yesterday he came into the bedroom. He was wearing his blue plush blanket, and I just look at him and I go, "Oh my gosh, good morning, my handsome king."
Sweet. You felt it. You feel like you have a handsome king now.
I do. And he said, "Good morning, my beautiful queen."
Hmm. That's just sounds like the kind of marriage everybody wants to have. Everyone wants to be in. And so you've created that. What what do you think it's done for your 2 boys? How has it impacted them?
Um, they see what it's like for a man to be respected And so I see them, they've just grown in so much confidence. They seem happier. They seem more peaceful. They're so much more protective of me now. And they realize their role as young men. And they realize that, they talk about being married a lot. They talk about, when I grow up, I'm gonna have 2 sons, and I can't wait to be a dad. And so I think they see, excuse me, I think they see marriage as a beautiful thing too, already. And I think they feel safe. And I think, excuse me, I think they feel so safe when they see their mom and dad hug each other and kiss. And I didn't have that growing up. So I think, wow, that must just feel so good, so secure, so rooted to have this solid foundation.
Yeah, you must feel a lot of mom pride to be able to be that role model for them.
I do.
Well, if you could give one tip to somebody who's maybe where you were with all the Cold Wars and the explosive fights and the separate bedrooms and feeling like nothing's worked, and maybe that she wants to get to where you are, or she feels like she's married to the handsome king and she's his queen. What where should she start? What should she do?
I would say definitely reading the book or the podcast, something, your skills, the intimacy skills, starting there. And then I know self-care was really, really important for me. And I think starting with self-care is really important. And then also feeling supported by a community of women. I joined the Ridiculously Happy Wives, and that has been just know that I'm not alone, because I think that's where a lot of the struggle came, is like, I'm alone in this, and I'm not, and she's not. And so to have a community of women for the 10,000 words and these beautiful, like, life-giving words, I think that community is so essential. Yeah.
Me too. I love our community also. And I'm grateful you're a part of it, Christina. So, and what would you tell yourself if you could go back in time and tell yourself what you know now? What would you say?
It's not him.
Oh, darn.
That's
Right?
it. It's a darn, and it's a, oh, thank goodness I had the power all along.
Yeah. Yeah, you have the power. And it sounds like he responded really well. Did you expect him to respond well when you started using the skills, or did you think this was probably pretty hopeless, but you're just going to give it a shot anyway?
There was just something different about the skills that I thought, it's so different. And I almost felt like, I don't know that not that it didn't matter to me how he responded, but I want to do this. I want to be dignified in this way. And then I want to see what he does. But I didn't have really an expectation it would work. And maybe there's some beauty right there too.
Yeah. Yeah. So you weren't, you didn't even go into it like I did, which was just to try to manipulate my husband to behave better. You went into it really, just wanting to be your best self, it sounds like.
Oh, I love your honesty. Yeah, that came too. That was there too. After they started working a little bit, I was like, oh, these really do work. And I can, yeah. So I have to watch myself on that.
Yeah, I hear it. I hear it. Well, Christina, you've done a great job fixing your family, and making it strong and making it a healthy family. And the whole world depends on healthy families for strong families for communities, strong communities. And I just want to congratulate you on your commitment and your courage in using the skills to make your marriage wonderful.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much.
If you're wondering how to get started with fixing your relationship and making it shiny again, then you need a roadmap. Get 6 simple steps to follow that will set your relationship up for success. Discover 3 common mistakes that wives make trying to fix their relationship that just make things worse when you download my free Adored Wife Roadmap. You can do that at getcherished.com. Go to getcherished.com now to get your roadmap in minutes.
Relationship advice. The worst relationship advice. Yeah, it's the worst relationship advice. The worst relationship advice of the week.
And now it's time for the Worst Relationship Advice of the Week award. And the advice that I'm fussing about this week is from a student who posted this during the Adored Wife Challenge. She originally saw it on a t-shirt, and she says that while she knows it was meant in fun, pre-intimacy skills, the phrase would have had a real ring of truth to it for her. And I can remember feeling the same way. So I'll tell you what the t-shirt said in just a moment. But first, here's your anonymous shout out. Thanks for sharing this terrible relationship advice with me. I can tell you have a new set of perspectives that you see the world through. And it sure feels like love to get your contribution to the podcast. I'm grateful. So the dubious declaration on the t-shirt said, quote, "I am not bossy. I just know what you should be doing." And while I love a funny t-shirt, this saying hits a little too close to home for me too. And having resembled that remark years ago, this sentence is more painful memory than humorous quip, because thinking I know what anybody else should be doing was a lonely, stressful state to be in. It meant I was neglecting how I felt and what I wanted, like a car going down the street with nobody behind the wheel, just bumping into things randomly and causing lots of problems for myself. Feeling like I know what's best for anybody else is also a reliable indication that I'm either scared of something in my own life or else just too tired to show up for it. And when I feel myself getting bossy, I think of it now as a flashing indicator light on my dashboard that I need my own attention. I can either try to figure out what I'm scared about or what I'm needing, or I can continue to neglect myself and waste a bunch of energy alienating someone I love by acting like the expert on their life. Heck, I might even have worn a slogan like this one on my own t-shirt in the old days with a mix of devil may care and defensiveness, not realizing that there was any other way for me to be than bossy because it was just such a habit. It's like a joke that's not a joke at all. For those reasons, the t-shirt slogan, "I'm not bossy, I just know what you should be doing," is the very, very worst relationship advice I've heard all week. Listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. Next week, I'll talk about 3 things you can't forgive in a relationship. And in the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that John says that immature is a word that boring people use to describe fun people.